Hello there, people. This is the Storyteller, and today we are talking about a movie, Wildlife. Wildlife was a movie that came out recently in 2018. In October, it was directed by Pauldano, and it was, acted by Jake Gyllenhaal and Carey-Mulligan. So the movie is about a little household or American average household that is going through some really average problems. Now, most of the critics are just really good. The critics' ratings are really good. It is 94% Rotten Tomatoes, Empire 4 by 5. But on IMDb is of course the audience rating is hailed as the biggest thing. So 6.9 out of 10, which is pretty good, I would say. It is a one-time watch, definitely, but you can watch it many times. I would say that it is a better made movie, but of course we are living in a time where money is given a little more importance. So what did this movie make? Now, this movie is actually produced by Jake Gyllenhaal, but how can an actor be the producer? So that's one problem. These actors are basically, I think they kind of let their income go a little and produce the movie by just acting in the movie. The movie didn't make a lot of money. It made about 3 million worldwide. 3 million worldwide is not good. It's very bad. The production budget is also not clear. Now here's this article about the movie by Brian Tallarico from RogerEbert.com. There's this buzz at Toronto this year about the number of high-profile projects directed by actors, including the debuts of Bradley Cooper, who made A Star Is Born, and Jonah Hill, who has made mid-90s. But it's Paul Dano's breakthrough that has been earning raves since it premiered at Sundance. Finally able to catch up with it in Canada, I can add my voice to that chorus. This is an accomplished, moving piece of filmmaking, one that cares about its characters and trusts its performers. It comes from a relatively old school of dramatic storytelling, but connects emotionally because of Dano's tender, confident world and what he's able to draw from two of the best performers of their generation. So this movie is is actually directed by and screenplay written by an actor, Paul Dano. Paul Dano is the guy who I first saw him in Night and Day. In Night and Day, he played the kid who is being saved by Tom Cruise. So it goes on to say that the Brinsons is the family, seems like an average American family in which Jake Gyllenhaal works at a local golf course, while Jean, played by Carey-Mulligan, helps raise their 14-year-old son Joe. Joe is playing football, but mostly he's just doing it so that he can be good to his father, while Jean keeps up their new home in Montana. It's 1960s are the times, and the world is changing, especially the definitions of happiness, family, and gender roles in the household. See, gender roles in the household are changing because, of course, the capitalism is catching on, and there's all upheaval in the society. But basically, in 1960s, the actual divorce rates actually increased, as I've heard. When Jerry loses his job, Jean gets one at the YMCA, and Mr. Brunson starts to drift away. Basically, Jake Gyllenhaal's character kind of drifts away, and then he gets a job at the there are some fires in the wilderness, and he goes on to work at that place to put out the fire. But to do that, he leaves his family for some time, for a few weeks. They just moved here after some undefined problems elsewhere, and now their life is in a state of upheaval yet again. And then Jerry decides to go fight wildfires far enough away that he is basically leaving his wife and son behind. How would you respond? Now, I don't know. How would I respond? How would you respond, Mr. article writer? Joe longs for his father's return, especially as he starts to see changes in his mother. She dresses and carries herself differently, and soon there's a man, played by Bill Camp, on the Brunson couch, who may be able to offer them what they no longer have, like stability and companionship. Can you blame Gene for wanting them? The brilliant aspect of Dano's adaptation of Richard Ford's 1990 novel, co-written by Zoe Kazan, is that it avoids blame. Gene isn't a typical villain. Now, why does this guy say that Jean, the female character, the mom, isn't a typical villain? Because actually, she is supposed to be the villain of the story. Your husband goes out for just a few weeks, and you are already in the arms of another guy. So she is basically the villain of the story. But this guy, like I've said many times before, Roger Ebert has died, and his website has been taken up by some not so good critics, and these people are crazy SJWs, and they would always support the woman. They cannot see a woman being the villain, so she has to notify that Jean isn't a typical villain. Why life allows its characters to be complicated, fallible? In fact, it's in part about the moment that when we realize our parents can be selfish. Of course, the parents can be selfish. Sometimes you have to be in order to survive, but one never senses judgment from Dano, Kazan, Gyllenhaal, or Mulligan. They recognize that there's beauty even in the mistakes we make in life. It's what makes us human. Now, here's one thing. In today's relationships, if the man is found guilty, then he is found guilty, right? The man cheated. But in this movie, the woman cheated, and this guy is saying that, our parents can be selfish. So it is either the man's fault or nobody's fault, right? This is exactly what this critic is saying. It is either the man's fault or nobody's fault, because Jean is not a villain. In keeping with the theme, Dano also allows his characters breathing space more than most films. You can see Dano's cast acting in the silent moments. What I mean is that we have a film culture, especially in US, that is so reliant on dialogue and motion, but I was struck by the amount of times I caught people in wildlife listening, processing, realizing all those silent, unflashy things that real people do all the time. Dano knows he has a mega talented cast, and so he does what a lot of actor-turned-directors do, in that he lets keep the audience engaged purely through the believability of their characters. No, actually, I think it is not exactly about the believability of the characters, but there's of course a strength in his direction. The camera work is really swift. Of course, it helps to have a cast this talented. Oxenbould is a very gifted young man. The kid, the guy who plays Joe, is actually the prime hero of this story. And Jake Gyllenhaal is typically great in a limited number of scenes. Yeah, Gyllenhaal's appearance is very, very limited. He's in the first 20 minutes and the last 10 or 20 minutes. That's all that Jake Gyllenhaal is in the movie. But the movie belongs to Mulligan. Of course, the movie belongs to Mulligan, the villain, who hasn't been this good since her Oscar-nominated work and Education, and she's been very good in between the too as well. She perfectly captures a woman placed in an impossible situation, driven to alter her behavior by a husband who essentially abandons her. No, no, no. He does not abandon her, Mr. Article Writer. Damn, what is his name? Brian, man, he has not abandoned her. He has gone and to fight some wildfire, and he has told that he will be back. She is not lashing out, which is he goes on to say that he has abandoned her. He says that she is not lashing out, which is the typical way the story would be handled in a lesser film, but trying to figure out how to adapt. She deserves happiness. She deserves consistency. He goes out for just a week or so, and your heroine, or should I say the villain, has a job. Still has a job. She can do her job. She can continue it, but she basically decides to fall into the arms of another man. She is the villain of the story. We know that, and he goes on to say that, and she realizes she may have to take it, but wildlife avoids all of the melodramatic pitfalls that could have so easily befallen this story. How many times have we seen the supposed decay of the American dream in a way that felt more statement-making than character-driven? There's a lot of unpack in Wildlife about how the world was changing in the 60s, particularly in its gender roles. The guy cannot just move away from the gender roles thing, but Dano and Kazan always make sure to keep character the foreground instead of theme. They know that this movie only works if the Brinsons feel completely three-dimensional and relatable, and it's that focus that elevates Wildlife to the positions of one of the best dramas of not just this year's Sundance or TIFF, but everything that premiered elsewhere this year too. So this guy, Brian, he throws his SJW theories in the movie criticism. But let me tell you, at the end of the movie, the woman leaves her family and goes on to work on a job at some other place, completely separated from her family. Why would she do that? She is trying to be extremely selfish. She does not want to remain with her husband. She is the villain of the story. Literally, she is the villain of the story. We all know that. We can all feel that. She is the one who cheats. She is the one who doesn't tell her husband what has been happening. And still, this guy puts the fact that, because he abandoned her, which he didn't. He didn't abandon her, but she had to go out. Anyway, these SJWs will go on making their weird statements. Of course, every writer, or should I say, every critic out there knows that this movie is better, but still, everybody keeps promoting the villain of the story instead of the hero of the story, who's the little boy, the 14-year-old Joe. He's the hero of the story. This is it for today. Please like and subscribe if you like this content, and we will be back with more reviews, more cringe, and check out the SJW comedy book links below. Peace.